still very warm. I noticed you guys are still wearing short sleeve, right? Tony is.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I have my door open as you can see because the dogs are running in and
Yeah,
out. So
I have heated out already.
I have I'm in the shady part, so that's why I have a shirt on.
Okay. But sounds like you guys are still quite warm though.
It is what would it be? Around 20, I think your
Uh,
temperature.
Oh,
actually,
nice.
a little less than 20, but
Yeah.
supposed to get up into the mid 20s today.
Yeah, that's still summer
But
weather.
no, summer weather here is over 30.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, for us that's extreme. I don't even
Yeah,
think you will ever reach
you
that.
get that way in the UK, and you have a national emergency.
I
But
know. All the railway, nothing is gonna work by that day, Even they
think
have to stop the train for that kind of heat.
the weather here in many ways is very like Melbourne.
Ah, okay.
You get some summer days that are really warm.
Mm.
Most summer days are warm, and we get, we get the amount of snow we get, Kate would just chuckle about. Like, oh, we get this much, and Kate gets,
Yes.
it's Maine. What are you going to say? Hey,
Yeah.
Kate.
So let's get the meeting kicked off here. So welcome everybody to the October 9th Ortelius Architecture meeting. Let me share my screen. Alrighty, and I'll drop the link to this. Let me put this in chat for you. If I can find chat again. Uh, they keep changing Zoom. They're like getting fancier and fancier with. They're adding more features, and I don't know if it's getting any better. So if you could sign in there, and we'll get going. So Hacktoberfest is on its way. We're just a little over a week in. Um, I do owe some reviews for Jing on some of her issues that she's been working on. So I will get those by the end of the week and get your PRs merged. Um, so when you and I make sure this just so you know what happens on the back end. Let me find one. So if we look at our pull request here, so I created a pull request, and you just have to make sure it's labeled. The PR is labeled with Hacktoberfest. So I make sure when I go and do the merge. But if somebody else like Arvin or Sasha, if you're doing merges, just make sure that the label's attached.
So, Steve, are we moving from Spell to Next.js?
Yes. So I will go over some of that. Let me pull up the issues real quick.
Okay.
All right. So one of the things we've been talking about here, Tracy and I, is simplifying the back end. I mean the front end for easier onboarding. So in order to do that, we've really trimmed down the data model. So basically, the question that we're going to answer is, we have a vulnerability. Where is it running, and how do I fix it? That's like the overarching use case. So basically, we end up with two tables now: the vulnerabilities and project releases. Project releases is what we currently call component versions. So this is really simplifying the way things are laid out and kind of mirroring other tools like SNCC, Docker Hub, Artifact Hub, those type of things for us to answer the questions. And then for the onboarding, we, based on some of the work that Jing's already done with like the Jenkins repo, monitoring that, we have to get 3 questions answered. What's your code repo? What are you using for your GitOps for deployment? And what your binary repository is. Given those 3 things, we can get to all of this data. So that's where we're going to be moving towards. Let me just start something real quick here, and I'll kind of show you what the... So to answer Arvin's question, we are, we are going to move to React instead of Svelte.
Why is that, Steve?
I think it'll give everybody more to put on their resume. So it's more of a resume builder than a technical thing. So that's the main reason. So people have React on their resume for front end development.
Okay.
Svelte is out there, but I don't, you don't get a lot of companies asking for it. So when I look at resumes and stuff like that, it's always around React.
And AI is very good at Next.js development.
Yeah, and that's how I generated this starter website. Just waiting for it to compile.
Yeah, I really like so. It works so nice.
Yeah, I do too. I think it has a better templating engine, but like I said, it's more, React seems to be more popular, more libraries, more developers, more companies looking for it. So I want to be able to put that on people's resumes. So like Arvin said, I generated this site using Claude, I think 4.5 or 4.7. So like we're looking in the data model, we have project releases now, and their vulnerability score, their dependency tree, whether that artifact was signed, verified, the score, when was it released, that type of thing. And then when you click on it, it will dive into all the, still compiling. Sorry guys, I didn't realize it was going to. The Docker build already has it pre-compiled, so it's not.
No worries. Did you upgrade your Mac, Steve?
I got a new PC today because my Mac's been crashing.
Oh.
It all of a sudden just stopped. It just turns off 2 or 3 times a day. So I have a mini PC that I'm in the process of installing Linux on.
Okay.
So from there, when you click on the card, you'll be able to get into all the detail that we normally have on a component version. So the detail being, the package dependency, Swagger, README, other details. Now, this data model right now is going from a vulnerability to a release, but we still have to do the data model to go from a vulnerability to the runtime endpoint. And that's, Sasha, where I was asking you yesterday about how do we get notified from a Kubernetes cluster when a Docker image is pulled. because that would give us the runtime endpoint. So if we could capture that information, we can then automatically, passively create a deployment record basically inside the database. So there'll be one more table. So you have vulnerabilities, project releases, and then you'll have basically like deployments or endpoints at that level.
So I have to ask a question then, Steve, since if I knew that I would have put that table in there. Don't we just need the endpoint? What would that table include?
It would include things like it'd be a very small table. It would include the cloud provider, the name of the endpoint, the type of the endpoint. Those would be like the three basic.
Do we have to have it? So everybody, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm trying to do 2 meetings today. The goal of this is to redesign Ortelius from the perspective of adoption. So none of this data, the only data that the end user should have to input is, scroll down, Steve.
Yeah, I already did.
So we'd ask them for their code repo, just like Sneak does. We'd have to ask them probably for their GitOps repo, because that's probably where the deployment script is, and the binary repo, which is where the release information is. So if there's any information that if they have to enter manually, we don't want to collect it.
No, that would not be. The endpoint information would be derived based on the GitOps process.
So where in the GitOps process do you think it would come from if you need like the more than just a name of an endpoint?
We would, if you want any details about the endpoint, whether it's Kubernetes or a VM, a virtual machine, or if it's like on a satellite or something, that information would be the extra information that'd be nice to have.
Okay, so let's just add, right while we're working on this, let's just build that table, and let's just figure out what endpoint data we need that allows them to easily identify the endpoint that's being impacted. What do they need to do to find it? What data do they need?
They don't need to give us any other.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking what data do you need, regardless of how it's entered? What data do we need to identify where that endpoint is?
So in this endpoint, you would need a cloud provider.
And is that important if it's running in AWS or Google? Isn't that something that they would already know where their stuff is?
No.
Yes, but let's say you're looking at Jenkins, for example. They may have each team may have their own Jenkins server. So that, and some of the teams may be on AWS and some of them may be on Azure. Companies are running multiple clouds now.
So let's figure out let's make sure that we're identifying. So we have a vulnerability running in a package in a component now, right?
It's running it's in a release. You have a vulnerability in a release.
You have a vulnerability in a release, and the release is running on an endpoint.
Right.
So we want to make it easy for them to identify what endpoint it is.
Well, if you can skip not having another table, but just by having an endpoint list, and that endpoint list would have.
So let me just ask another question. From the perspective of the component, we're talking about the team themselves, right? That wrote that component. What do they not know where their stuff is really, where it's running?
That's correct. And that's one of the problems that we've had for decades, I'd say. It's a serious problem.
Okay. So cloud provider then, what else would there be in that?
And then just type.
And what do you mean by type?
Kubernetes.
So platform, possibly, or operating system, or
Yeah, Kubernetes, uh, AMI, or a VM. Would be typically the two.
and do they need that to know where the bug is?
They don't necessarily need to know the type is just extra information.
Well, let's take out anything that's not required at this point.
So if you assume that they know what cloud provider they're on, then all you need is the name.
I'd be
Of the
cautious
endpoint.
about assuming they know what cloud provider they're on, though.
Yeah, so we'll add the cloud provider in there and the
Well,
endpoint name.
everybody may not agree with that. Like I said, I would be cautious about it, but what do others think? Okay, let me add another question. Is the granularity at the cloud provider company name, like AWS, or do we happen to have availability of which, for example, which zone or region they're in? Does that matter?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. What, isn't there anything that's deeper that they might need to know? Maybe namespace, if it's in a Kubernetes environment. What is it they need to know to really pinpoint where that is?
That detail would be more than likely in the deployment script. So the deployment script's going to have all that detail on what you need to, where it's going and how it gets there. So
Okay.
which zone it's going to, which cloud provider, that type of thing. And the deployment script could be a Terraform, it could be a harness, it could be a GitOps like a Argo CD or Flux CD process.
So the deployment script, there's no universal format that we could take advantage of. It's more like, here's your deployment script. You're going to have to go look at it.
Yes. Yeah,
Well,
that
I
Is
is
that
think
true? Is that true? Couldn't we say we're going to focus on Argo CD because there's going to be a very specific format in an Argo CD, or we focus on Terraform,
yes,
or OpenTofu, and
those
then we do one at a time. So we start with, say, Argo CD, since that's the platform engineer's favorite.
yes, we would want to pick one or two to start with.
Okay.
So what will a report that we give people look like?
So the report would would answer this question: where is it running? I have a vulnerability. So I have a high vulnerability that's running in cluster 10 for this release.
Mhm. Not sure
So
about
that,
how do I fix it. There could be many answers to that.
The fix part comes into play with the so when we know when a vulnerability, one of the vulnerability attributes is the fixed in version. So we know that for this vulnerability, there may or may not be a fix for it, but if there is, we know that you have to go from version 2.11 to 2.15 of that package.
and let's keep in mind that that is the goal, the ultimate goal right now. We don't have that auto remediation done, but that's what we'd like to be able to do. So we want to gather all of the data that we need to do that the last step, how to fix it. But right now, what in the discussion we're having, I think the question we're trying to answer is, where is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then once we find it, how do we fix it? So that, where is it running? Where is it? And eventually, how do we fix it? So at the minimum right now, what we would be able to do is from this deployment list, we could take Ukarsh's MCP server that's going to be able to, it's going to allow us to create a pull request fairly quickly. And we could say there's a high risk vulnerability running in all of these environments. Your component has a vulnerability that's critical and high risk, and this is where it's running, giving them the name of the endpoint, the cloud provider, that this data here. Or what maybe what we should just put over here is right now a Argo CD deployment script. So we're specific that we're going to work on Argo first, unless we decide we should go to Terraform or OpenTofu. Because Tony, once we have this information, we do have everything we need to go and update the package dependency file. And there's a company called Mend who has a little open source tool called Renovate. And today what Renovate does is it goes and it looks at your all your dependency files, and then it says, oh, you're using all these old dependency files. I'm going to just update it automatically so you have all the newest versions of all your packages. It's pretty onerous because a developer doesn't necessarily want that stuff updated immediately. It doesn't have bugs in it. They don't have to do it, but we might be able to take advantage of Renovate. It's an open source tool, and be very specific and say, for this package, we know it's fixed in, as Steve pointed out, this particular version, we're going to go update that package file with just that version change, not let's fix everything, just that one change, because developers are less likely to consume something that has so many things different. Sasha?
My experience with Renovate is that you can raise it as PRs and you can leave it there for the developers to choose whether they want to do that, or they can just close the PR.
Yeah,
So there
and
is
most of
that
the time it
option.
gets closed.
Well,
Yeah.
the annoying part with Renovate is it has when it goes through and does a dependency bump. I could show you one.
But the point is, we want to use something like that to be able to create a pull request that says, for this particular dependency, here's your fix for this particular vulnerability and nothing else.
Do you want to match it to like a critical and a high? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Rather
Yep.
than
for critical
just
and
having,
high. Yes.
just rather than just having Renovate like blank
Update
as a blanket.
all the packages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
can't you do that in Renovate? Can't you set it to
You
like?
can.
I
Yes.
don't know. That's
We
have
probably
a
can. We haven't gotten there, and I don't want to take this conversation that direction. But I want to keep in mind that the data that we're collecting is for the purpose of using something like Renovate to do that update and create the pull request. So we'll need that information in order to do that. So the minimum data that we need.
So here's
how does it to write your own thing to do something like this? Like a custom Ortelius bot.
That's what we're looking at with the MCP side and options on that front.
Then it checks that site. What's that site? The MITRE site, right? And if it finds that it's a high or a low or what, then it'll just do it or ignore it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So here's a PR that was created by Renovate. And if we look at the change that it made it just a change in a Docker version. So that was the only change that it made for bumping the version at Alpine to a newer version. Mm-hmm. Now, what it did was it went and found the latest version of the which one was it? The Nginx Alpine. It went out and got the latest one, but what we want to do is tell it to go instead of to the latest one. We wanted to tell Renovate to go to a specific version at that level. Now, one of the things when you were talking about one of the weird byproducts of Renovate is if you actually close this PR and you want to ignore it, they have something that's called what was it? It's a weird term. It's like a forever lasting PR or something like that. It'll come back on you. It's very persistent on.
If you close it, does it just recreate it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It'll come back and
Like
recreate
developers
it
are
a
just
couple
going like
hours
this,
later.
go away,
Yeah,
and it just keeps
yeah,
coming back. It's like that birthday candle that doesn't go out.
yeah. I can't remember what they call it. It's like this immutable or indestructible PR. Kind of like
Indestructible
this
PRs.
this issue here. If you go
No, you will fix me.
yeah, you will fix it.
Yeah.
Type of thing, and that's where it gets into a lot of noise. Uh, so it'll go out there and create a bunch of stuff.
Well, anyways, that's the ultimate goal, is to potentially use something like Renovate or write something of our own, doesn't matter at this point.
Yep.
What we're looking at right now is the minimum amount of data that we need to get in order to be able to make that full circle, so that the data can be populated automatically for them when they go and sign up. All they're doing is pointing to their repo, maybe pointing to their GitOps repo, and pointing to their Docker or their Docker Hub or Artifact Hub repo. And that's all they have to do to sign up. There's no connection to the CLI pipeline. There's not, all the command line stuff is gone. It's all SaaS hosted, so they don't have to do anything. All we do then is start scanning those repos using the SBOM, just starts to do the scanning, find the vulnerability, and report on it.
Is
So
there
that
anybody
is,
else that does something like Renovate? Are there alternatives out there?
there may be, but not open source that we could incorporate without having to pay for something.
There's like Dependabot, which was written by GitHub, I think, or
GitHub.
Google, or I think Google wrote Dependabot at one point. I don't remember, but if we can make Renovate work, it would be great. I don't think we will be able to. I think because its main goal is to get you to the latest version, and we want to get to a specific version, and that's the to keep the noise down.
Right. We just want to go and fix the vulnerability that's at hand. We're not trying to boil the ocean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you just want to hit those high level ones, right?
Yeah.
There is another way that we can try. It might be a lot of solutions. So currently for GitHub Copilot, there is a feature like if you create a GitHub issue and if you assign the issue to Copilot instead of a user, it will create the PR. So we can told Renovate to only create the issue and not the PR. And then using our platform, we can use the GitHub Copilot, in which we can give them like specific instruction to of what to do and what not to do.
Yep.
But it might be a lot of tasks.
So what I suggest is that over the course of the next 2 weeks, everybody has this very rudimentary data format that we're working on here, is take a look and see if there's anything that we've missed. And because again, we have to take it from an onboarding perspective. No more CLI. We have to find the data out there already across these repos and pull the repo data in versus the logging information that we would normally get from the DevOps pipeline. So what are we missing in what we've started on? That would be the task.
No CLI. No CLI.
No CLI. No interface to the DevOps pipeline.
What do you mean by that? That you can't use a CLI tool to do this?
So, for example,
we're taking this again. Let me try to. We're trying to look at this from an onboarding perspective. Make the onboarding as easy as possible. And what I have learned over the course of the last 6 months is that DevOps engineers no longer want to update their CI/CD pipelines, and there's thousands of them. So we have
me,
now
of course.
we
I'll
have
do it. I
we
don't
have a
care.
command line interface that will gather some of this information, but it doesn't make onboarding easy. It makes it there's effort to it.
There's always effort.
But if we're asking at the SaaS level when they sign up to set it up for them, if we ask them 3 questions and we can gather that data from those 3 questions and we just scan those repos, that's a better service than asking them to update hundreds of workflow pipelines files. So we're trying to move away from the CLI. And
That's
Sasha, I would love to get your perspective from a platform engineering perspective, but I think platform engineers are probably done with doing plugins too for Jenkins.
Yeah, because platforms have built-in CI/CD. You don't need a tool anymore.
Right. Right.
That's what's quite scary, right?
Right.
It just means we have to evolve with that. I think that if you do, if you go through some of these competing tools like Sneak and sign up for it, and you realize how easy it is to get going on it, and you don't have to have a CLI of any kind.
I use Sneak. Sneak is incredible. Git Guardian is another amazing one.
Yeah,
Git Guardian
it's
is
super
incredible.
easy, right?
They automatically create honey tokens for you to like trap the hackers. Like it's insanely cool.
Yeah. So we have to be more like that.
And the reason why we have to ask the 3 questions is so these are kind of out of order, but if you look at a Docker image that's in any of the Docker registries, you have, and that's the only place that you have, you can't figure out what the source code was, what the source code repo was that created that Docker image. There's absolutely no link between the two. So because of that, when you look, we have to ask them for this artifact, this Docker image that you're creating, what is, and it's stored over in Docker Hub. What is the code repo that's used to create that has the Docker file in it to create that? Because then you can say, oh, if this Docker image is running now in production and I need to fix it, how do I work my way backward to the git commit that I have to go fix the bug in? So that's why we have to map a code repo and the binary repository together. Now the GitOps repo comes into the play with where did it get deployed to? So the GitOps information is our endpoint information. So that'll give us an idea that they've, everything's infrastructure as code now. So they had a GitOps repo or that included Terraform, and they ran Terraform to deploy to Kubernetes. So that Terraform is going to say this is where it got deployed to. These are the endpoints that it got deployed to. So that's why we need to GitOps repo. And yeah, those are the release artifacts.
So this is where it's coming from. This is where
it's running.
Wait, where it's running.
It's a hard problem to solve.
Where it's staged. I have them backwards, actually.
That's why I said it. They're backwards.
Yeah. And this is the metadata.
That's the source.
Yeah.
The source of all of the troubles.
Yes. So it should look like this.
Yeah, I was going to attempt to do it, but
I know it's a CLI, but just take a look at it anyway. Update CLI. The Go binary.
Where you got in chat or something?
Yeah. I know it's a CLI, but there might be something maybe we could do with it, or maybe it's completely useless.
And where it needs.
But you're not locked into anybody, you know. You control it.
And these would be the three things that they would have to give us at setup. And what we would have to scan.
One little Go
So
binary. It's quite cool.
yeah. So for Jenkins, we would have to have their Git repo. That we would have to have these two objects. For Jenkins, we may not be able to answer this question because it's running on thousands of endpoints all over the world. But at minimum, what we'd be able to do is say, here's a release that you're running out in production, and this is where the bugs are. And I know that's probably already being done, but what's not being done is find that and update it and put it back here, right? Make this circle.
Right. Yeah, here's the fix that's needed, and that will create a new release.
And I'm going to have to go, guys. I have to jump back up on this other call I was on.
Yep.
And I have to get to another call as well. So talk to you guys next week.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to hang out for a little bit, we can dive further into this. Does this kind of make sense where we're headed? And I think more than likely this part here will be another table just to make life easy to relate things instead of embedding it into the same table. Just makes it a little bit cleaner. So I'll break that out into a separate table. Just from a database perspective, it just makes it easier to deal with. So I tried to set up issues. So we do have somebody that's picked up this person who's relatively new is working on the renovate part. Jing has picked up the SBOM, the Jenkins notifier, so that's in play. We are going to need some, if anybody's interested in some GitHub actions. We need to build we still need to do some Golang builds for doing some of the work. So we're going to need some GitHub actions if somebody's interested in building a Golang executable and releasing it. We will still have CLIs that we'll be using to pass things along and run inside of our GitHub actions, but they're not going to be exposed to the end user. They'll never see them. It'll be more for our internal stuff that we need to do. Trying to think what else. So that is the main stuff on the MCP side. Just to give you an update, it looks like we have 2 MCPs that are being implemented. So Ukarsh has one and another person has one. And I'm trying to get Ukarsh, getting everybody on the same page, and we may end up merging some of the MCP stuff together. So just a heads up, if you're interested in the MCP stuff, make sure you get everybody in the room together so we get a good implementation. I haven't had a chance to get deep into the MCP side of things. I've been trying to get the all the other stuff in place on that front. With that, I'll just take any last minute questions and then we can scoot. For this part, we're talking about the endpoints. And this is the comment I had yesterday with Sasha about being able to capture Kubernetes events. If we're able to capture a Kubernetes event, we won't need the deployment script. So that kind of makes it a lot easier. So if Harness deploys to Kubernetes, you just do a manual Helm, you do Terraform, or you do Argo or Flux to Kubernetes, and we're just able to capture the event of the image being pulled by Kubernetes controller, and that gets sent to a log where we can ingest the log. That gives us a way to deal with 5 or 6 deployment tools without having to be tied to each one of them. Yeah, Sasha.
So I see what you were saying now. I understand it better now. So for a cloud provider, you just access whatever logging system they have, right, for that kind of information.
Yep.
But if you have an on-premise environment, then could you use like a raw API call to the Kubernetes cluster itself to get that information?
What I'm trying to avoid is having to have them set up permissions on the Kubernetes cluster to do raw API calls.
Yeah, you'd rather just have that be accessed by whatever logging system they're using, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like Kibana or something like that.
Even like Prometheus, Grafana.
Prometheus, yeah.
Anything like that would work too.
Yeah, Prometheus is a good one. That's what I'm running on my cluster. I use Prometheus.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is you're trying to do this as passively as possible with the least interference. As soon as you go and say, I want read access to your production cluster, that just doesn't fly. But if I say I want read access to your audit log, that's a different story.
Yeah, they'll do that. Yeah, that's true. Especially in banking and those type of industries.
And then you can also expand this. So I'm kind of envisioning, this is where my head is right now. So let's say you have Kubernetes kick out to CloudWatch a record that says, I just deployed this container image. Now, that will work for Kubernetes. If you set up the same type of alert for deploying to ECS Fargate, ECS isn't quite a full Kubernetes cluster, so ECS acts a little strange, but you can still get ECS to kick out ECS Fargate to kick out a record to CloudWatch. So if the image is being deployed to into a pure Kubernetes environment or into a serverless environment like EKS or even a Lambda, you can get notified when a Lambda spins up a Docker image as part of that. If all that goes to CloudWatch, then we have a Lambda sitting on the cloud watching the CloudWatch logs that then goes and forwards those events to Ortelius. We have a very simple solution that will take care of a lot of the scenarios. Even if you spin up an AMI, we can say this is the AMI that just got launched as an EC2 instance. Kick that log over. Now we know where all these releases are running, kind of like in a agnostic way. Now, obviously, there will be difference between the cloud providers, between AWS, CloudWatch, and Google's Stackdriver. But the same concept would happen there. You configure GKE to kick out to Stackdriver the same formatted log message, and then you have a Google Lambda basically that then listens to the Stackdriver logs and then forwards the events over to Ortelius. That's kind of where I'm thinking would be the nice way to go. We just have to dive into the details of how to make those capture those events, um, and get them into a log place. And if we call it like a deployment audit or something like that, I think platform engineers would be on board with it.
Makes sense.
I don't know if it's going to work, but that's the path I'm headed down right now.
Sounds good to me. The unknown.
It is a little unknown, but I think there's ways to do it. We may have to deploy like a sidecar or something like that into like Kubernetes. There's one, somebody said like the Fluent bit. I can't remember what
But I
was it.
think with the new Kubernetes, you don't need sidecars anymore.
What ends up happening is it's another pod that runs that has a CRD to have access to the Kubernetes events.
I see. Because I think I saw that somewhere that with the new Kubernetes versions, you don't need sidecars anymore.
I think on the Kubernetes side, it ends up being the Kubernetes controller logs it to its own file system, but doesn't forward it on to the outside world.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. Somebody, I think it was in the dev channel, somebody mentioned, wait, it was in the dev channel in Discord. Like I said, my machine keeps crashing, so I have to restart everything. So look at, Sasha, if you have the dev channel, or Arvin, if you have the dev Ortelius channel up there, it was like one of the last comments in there. There's like Fluent Bit or Fluent something, Fluent CI.
Yeah. FluentBit is a log collector, yeah.
Yeah, I'm checking that now. Well, that Naren mentioned, right?
I haven't used it before, but it's quite a industry standard log collector for Kubernetes that you can run to collect logs and sends it out.
Yeah, here it is. Let's see. It was. Yeah, Fluent D or Fluent Bit. And I know Argo and Flux kick out events as well. So it could be just a matter of configuring one of those to send the events to the to a stack driver output.
Yeah, makes sense.
But the idea is if we can get them into a log stream, then we can grab them off of the log stream and forward them on to Ortelius through probably a Lambda, because that's really cheap. A scheduled Lambda that runs a couple seconds is not going to is going to be a really low cost way to do it.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
So please take a browse of the issues out there. Pick some of them up. If there's something you want to work on, just go ahead and add a new issue. And if you're running it to GitHub permissions, just let somebody know. I'm an admin. Arvin's an admin. I think Sasha, you're an admin to the repos. So we can get that sorted out so you can get access correctly.
And if they need a PR done, can they just at me so that it pops up? Because
yep,
I get millions of messages, emails, and Discord and Teams, and the list goes on. You know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. You can. I have a filter too. I have filters for notifications and stuff like that. So I look for specific things that I want to. There's certain things I just throw away. I just send to trash, and then the rest is
Exactly.
like 90% gets sent to trash from the GitHub notifications.
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. Any other questions, comments?
Good.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers,
Nice.
Steve. See you
Cheers.
later.
Yes. Bye.
Yes, bye.